Hello and welcome to the Business Edge podcast in association with Accounts Direct Limited, where each episode will be talking about real-life scenarios, problems, issues, solutions all around the SME market in the UK. I'm joined today by founder and CEO of Accounts Direct, Mr. Stephen Englander.
Hello.
Thanks for coming in.
Oh, you're welcome. Before we start though, Hayden, I'd like to say that I'm very impressed with the size of these microphones.
They are.
They're
sizable
very
microphones.
good, aren't they? I mean, the last time we did an interview like this, they were really small and insignificant.
It's all about the girth.
Yes, I can see.
It's all about the girth. That's what matters.
So you're going to cross-examine me about making tax digital.
I am. In
today.
this first episode, we're going to be talking about making tax digital, which is a real problem for a lot of business owners now, because even though it was first mooted in 2015, it's now a terrible surprise for everybody.
Oh, yes.
And there's great confusion, especially in the small business market, where, as you know yourself, day to day, you don't think ahead.
No.
You worry about whether the money's coming in, your suppliers, everything else. So can you give us just a brief overview of what making tax digital is? Well,
it's a new initiative from HMRC, and it's actually very, very simple. It simply means that where you're a VAT-registered business or your turnover's more than the VAT threshold, which is £85,000 at the moment, that you've simply got to file accounts in a digital format. Mainly sales, so you simply list the date of the invoice, the amount of the invoice. That's it, really. And you put this in a digital storage medium, which is not as difficult as it sounds, considering that almost every bit of software nowadays perform this for you. And in fact, the whole world is becoming digital anyway. So everything that making tax digital is telling you to do, you're probably doing anyhow. You've just got to file it with HMRC.
One of the things the Exchequer is saying that each year, because of pen, paper and post, previous way of doing it, they were losing £9 billion worth of tax. They now estimate that if they go with making tax digital, by 2022 to 2023, it will contribute over £1 billion, still leaving £8 billion out there. They're saying this is just down solely to errors. But when you hear of $1 billion being clawed back, a lot of small business owners are concerned that they're going to be paying more because of this new system, that somehow it's going to be getting more out of them than it should.
I think for small businesses, it'll actually do the opposite. I think that I see so many small firms, and don't get me wrong, I'm not on the side of HMRC. I'm on the side of efficiency and helping small businesses to prosper. But I do see an awful lot of small businesses who are suffering fines and assessments, which are almost always more than you'll actually be due to pay, simply because bookkeeping isn't being done properly. And I think something like this will force people to file accounts as and when they should. I've said for the past 30 years to people, if you give me your paperwork in its entirety and on time, everything will be filed properly without any errors. So yeah, I think errors are a massive big part of this, but I think it's against the clients, against the small businesses, not in favour of them.
Right. Okay. So in essence, the great panic that a lot of people are sensing at the moment, and this is one of the number one trending topics in UK business, making tax digital, making tax digital. For the average small business owner who maybe does just drop his receipts off at the accountants, doesn't do any of this, perhaps doesn't always keep them all and doesn't always get them in on time, what will be the main difference? Will their accountants handle all the digital side for them? Or?
That's a multifaceted question. You can never ask an accountant a straight question. But part of this problem with missing receipts and collating information, that's a problem with or without making tax digital. And if you take the making tax digital wording out of it and just call it keeping proper records, which HMRC have been saying well before I was born, you know, I'm nearly 23, so it's been going a long time. You can see that it's about forcing people to keep the records that they should be taking. I mean, I often wonder with some people how they actually run a business with so little information around them, and this will force it. They're making everything digital. It's not making tax digital. It's making bookkeeping digital. It's making the way you transact digital, which is the way the world's going anyway. So all HMRC are doing is saying, okay, everything's going digital anyway. Let's file a little bit more information and force you to keep better bookkeeping. Does that answer that question?
It does. I think what effectively we really want to do with this podcast is cut through some of the fear, some of which I believe might be being encouraged by some software vendors wanting to sell software.
Well, if you're fiddling your books, which I've never met anyone that does, but if you're one of those few people in this country that do, then it's going to be a bit harder for you. But it doesn't make sense, because I've always found that if you follow HMRC guidelines, even before they're made into law, if you follow the guidelines, you won't go too far away from what is good business. The problem is if you are playing games with your books or being silly with the books, then you're probably not going to survive long in business anyway. And this is just a little bit of legislation that's going to say, do it this way rather than do it or don't do it. It's not a change of what you've got to do. It's a change of the way you do it. And as far as accountants are concerned, well, I've been providing digital accounts now for years and years and years. We were ready for making tax digital 10 years ago. As soon as any new technology comes in, we embrace it because it makes you more efficient, and in efficiency becomes accuracy, and it becomes more cost effective. And if it doesn't become more cost effective, you get a lot more for your money. So I would much prefer to have good bookkeeping kept and advise people on weak points in their business, rather than in advising people, oh, you're not complying with this and you're going to have problems. So it's not a big problem. Software's out there that takes care of it anyway. If you're using Xero, if you're using QuickBooks, if you're using any of this stuff, you're already 90% of the way there. A similar thing went on with the real-time information with payroll. It wasn't that we needed to have additional information, we just need to file it differently. And it's a lot easier as well. And once you get into the hang of it, you're fine. Now, at the moment, it's only people that have registered for VAT and a few other people that fit into that. But on the whole, if you're not turning over £85,000 and you're not registered for VAT, then you're not in this system yet. It will be graded into the system. However, you can actually volunteer to be in this system. You can actually volunteer to file everything through the Making Tax Digital schemes. The fact that you can volunteer to be in it shows that it's got a benefit for you. I'm a big fan of Making Tax Digital.
Right. Fantastic. Well, I mean, also from what you said, it's literally just following the practice you should be following.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Just filing it.
Yeah.
In a different
form. I mean, most people, without even realising they're doing this, the minute they're online, the minute they're filing, what are computerised accounts? It's digital accounts. Yeah. If you're using software, which most people do to prepare accounts, even to issue their invoices, they're already almost there. And it makes very little difference for us to file a Making Tax Digital, what do they call it? The methodology. We're filing VAT returns, we can file this at the same time.
So, literally, if they have an accountant, this should all be
accountants love this, right, because it makes life, I wouldn't say it's easier for them, but it makes it more in a way that accountants' minds work, because it's more logical, it's more straightforward.
Would it make a difference, I suppose, with all the records being available digitally? And this is obviously going to be rolled out completely across taxation and VAT, where everything's available, the HMRC, the bank records, the invoices, everything else. Occasionally you do get investigations, not because you've done anything wrong, just because that's how it lands. Yeah. Would one benefit of this be they'll be over it a lot quicker? Yes, very, very much so. And it will probably do away with that horrible someone coming around to your office, or you've got to meet in the accountants, because you're correcting things as you go. If there are any problems, remember, anything that HMRC view, the clients view as well. You see your own paperwork first. We know what they see. So everything that HMRC see, we see first, you see first. So there's going to be no surprises. And if things are wrong or things don't look quite right, we can adjust them as we go, just to make sure things look easy. And I imagine HMRC, although often demonised as the monster, it would be in their best interest to also use an early warning sign for issues that they can talk to you before getting to the point of letters and threats. No, absolutely. My experience of HMRC, whether it's tax or VAT or whatever side of it, is that they are trying to get things right. They don't want you to pay more tax than you should. They just want to enforce that you should pay the right amount of tax. And I actually do see that. I'm not just saying this because I'm on a podcast and God knows who's listening to it. So for all those HMRC inspectors, hi, I'm on your side. No, it's
it's a much softer approach. And I think if they've got the information they need before they get to you, then yes, of course, it will make that process a bit easier. And it will also direct any inspector to look at what the anomaly is, rather than sift through everything.
It could become more about cooperation, less about a punitive action, more about working with.
There'll always be an element of punitive action.
Of course, because people will always go that little bit further.
Yeah. But this will stop a lot of mistakes. And I would imagine it'll put a lot of the mistakes at the hands of people like me that have to correct them before it gets anywhere.
Yeah.
So it'll create a little bit more work. But I think as people get used to it, and especially with the automations built into the systems, I think it'll just become a much, much easier tax system, a much, much easier bookkeeping system. And what I like about it is it will give me more accurate information quicker, so I can become more of the consultant rather than the compliance officer that I've been forced to become. So I can help you, and any accountant can help you. Well, not anyone. I know that guy down the road is useless, but most of us can advise you on how to actually run the business and where the strengths and weaknesses are in the business, rather than, oh, that paperwork's missing, that's missing, the gross profit ratio doesn't quite look right. We can say, oh, everything's okay that way, but have you thought of increasing your price a little bit? Have you thought of maybe you seem to be selling more of that type of product? Maybe we can look at that. There's lots of ways we can help beyond just getting the bookkeeping right.
Obviously, being an accountant, we're going to focus on the benefits of accountancy.
Yeah.
But for the very small business owner that perhaps isn't at that level where they're ready for that kind of regular outlay, the startup that doesn't have massive investment, might have a stall, very small business that are using software, this still doesn't add layers of complexity for them,
if they're not registered for VAT, at the moment, there's nothing to worry about. Nothing changes for them.
And also, by the time this does come through, they'll have their own system.
Well, this is coming through in April in 2019.
That's the VAT register, and as it filters through to everybody else.
That'll be the year after, maybe, if it works. But yeah, it will filter to everybody. But it'd be a good thing. Already now, there's a lot of people that used to have to fill in tax returns, but they don't anymore. It's not the same as making tax digital, but it's a part of it. So HMRC have already got information from things like P60s from any employment, or certain interests or dividends or bank interest, that type of thing. And it means that they can collate that from source, so they don't need you to fill in a tax return anymore.
Which is brilliant, because they're horrible.
Well, I have no problem with them.
But you said that's your business. But if you're in business and you want to get out there, so you don't want to spend your evening doing the tax return.
It's just one more burden for you. It's one more thing away from Coronation Street or football or whatever you want to do. And I think that's quite important. There's also an element in bookkeeping that a lot of it's always been a bit number crunching, but it's becoming more number crunching, which means that even if you can do it and know how to do it, it's the information that is derived from bookkeeping that's more important. And once compliance is sorted out, then why would you do any bookkeeping? Just leave it to the accountants, leave it to your bookkeeper, and then act on the information you receive. When you've got a small business or you're just starting out, if you're not achieving the VAT threshold yet anyway, then you really need to, because let's face it, how much money can you actually make if you're not even trading at the VAT threshold, especially in this day and age? I mean, minimum wage, it takes up a third of that before you even start.
I guess we also have to think about people that have little side businesses alongside their employment.
Yeah, absolutely.
The eBay traders that are just earning, perhaps it's the mortgage, perhaps it's just some money to go out at the weekends. Yeah. They still have to account for that income. And so
they should, really, because if you think about it, they're competing or taking business from businesses that are properly regulated and pay all their taxes and have all the other burdens and everything that goes with it. And if people are just saying, well, I'm just doing part-time, well, they should also be regulated. It should also be part of the system.
Also, because as things do grow digitally, you know for a fact that legislation is going to indicate that they have to be able to trace people through those outlets as well. So that will all directly go to HMRC.
It automatically will,
I think we have to face facts that that's coming. So anyone that did, and people do, earn a bit of pin money and think they don't have to declare it, it's coming to a point where they're going to have to be a little more sensible. Yeah.
Although in saying that, we don't tend to get any clients like that. Our clients, and I think most people that go and use an accountant or even use software, tend to be a full-time business that's within potential trading.
We're going out to all sorts of people that can be concerned about these things. So it's always good to look at them, because also some of those little side businesses do turn into something a bit more exciting.
And very quickly sometimes.
Yes, well, that's how it tends to happen, isn't it? All at once, and then all of a sudden you're thinking, oh, now I've got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because you think I've got to do a tax, and all of a sudden the bill comes in. Oh, so it's something people should think ahead. And perhaps the digital side of things, instead of being something people are concerned about, really should be viewed as, I can get all my ducks in a row.
Yeah.
I'll kind of know in advance what I'm going to be paying.
Yes.
Everything's a little more comfortable, because nobody likes surprises in the form of a bill.
Well, at every filing, they'll have an idea what they're going to be, what their profits are like anyway. I mean, we've been doing this for clients for years. Every quarter we'll let them know where they're on track for. We spot the trends. And this just now means that even more people can take advantage of the management side of a business, which is what I'm concerned about.
And the more digital your client becomes, obviously, I imagine, it's much faster to get data to you, and everything can be done
almost instantly
plugged into your system.
We can be connected with people's software, we can be connected to their bank accounts, we can be connected to everything. People can now, and we're finding clients are liking this, they can go and pay cash for petrol, so we don't automatically pick it up from bank statements, and take a picture on the phone of the receipt. Mm-hmm. And that can be for anything, and that receipt is automatically loaded into their account with us, and we automatically include it. And then
we don't have to keep boxes full of stuff, because it's all digitally. And
that's part of the MTD goal, to reduce, if not eliminate, paperwork.
Yeah, and also, I know from past experience, I'm sure you do, keeping paperwork is a discipline all of its own.
Oh, yeah, and it's so easy to lose.
Because we all get receipts, then there's a big bundle of them in the pocket, and then they go in the bin because you
and
don't
the van
know.
window, or the washing machine, or the dog eats it.
And then your accountant turns around, have you got those receipts?
We've had staff in here that say, you can actually quite dislike people by the paperwork. But we find other interesting things in people's paperwork as well, like photographs of ex-wives in funny positions, and love letters. We found a suicide note once.
I guess this will be for our next podcast, Accountancy After Hours.
It was. I actually phoned the client to see if they're okay.
All turns up in the paperwork, except the receipt that you need to account for something. Everything but.
Yeah. So these days, remember as well, Hayden, that the paperwork element, and this is another thing people need to understand, that cash isn't being used anything like it was. Everything is transferred through the bank or PayPal or other forms of digital payment. Stripe, that's it. Yeah,
all the others. Yes.
And so we're not seeing much cash as anymore. I mean, I don't remember when I don't really pay for things cash.
I've noticed I tend to keep about £20 in my wallet. I'm not sure why.
Yeah,
I think it's because I
maybe always need a bit.
It's
of
a generational thing, isn't it? You always keep a little bit on you.
Yeah,
but it's only about £20.
Yeah,
and I won't use it.
Yeah,
I just have to have just that.
Yeah,
in my wallet.
It's a feeling of not being totally skinned.
But I know that the next generation don't care about things like that.
And it's like if you go into McDonald's and you don't want your wife or girlfriend to know, pay by cash.
I don't have that. My wife's fine with that.
No, mine
yours
has a problem with it. Yeah,
off the books.
Yeah, just because I'm diabetic with high blood pressure and all that type of thing.
You can't resist the golden hour. Well,
no, I never go in. I'm just in case.
Of course you don't. Of course, because yes, you'll be listening.
Yeah,
I understand completely.
She won't listen to this, Bozo. This is accounting stuff.
Good.
This is not about high fashion.
No. This certainly isn't about how you do actually go into McDonald's with cash and pay for it with that. So I think when I've been looking online before we did this episode, there's huge amounts of people, swathes of people, that are hugely concerned about all this. Yeah. Most of the reasons I look at is they think somehow HMRC is out to get one over them.
Yeah.
It's very cynical of me. My initial thoughts when I see that is, well, what are you doing?
Yeah.
If you're that concerned, what are you
what are you really doing?
Yeah, what are you really getting away with?
It's nothing to be scared of. It's part of the way the whole regime's going. So if you're a big Illuminati fan, or you think there is a conspiracy, well, okay, there's an conspiracy. You've still got to work with it.
Well, everything's going digital, full stop, digital payments, digital taxation.
Yeah.
It has to happen.
Yeah.
There are legitimate concerns about what the government do with the information, how they store your data, but there's nothing we can do about that. But I think overall, from what you've said and from what I've managed to glean, I think people should look at this as just an opportunity to simplify something quite a bit.
Yeah.
And yes, it is about HMRC trying to claw back some of the money that's lost through error. But that's not a bad thing either.
But also, on the other hand, you've got those statistics in front of you, and I've heard similar, but look at it another point of view. How much are HMRC going to lose because they're not pulling in tax and VAT from assessments or from penalties or all that type of thing? So maybe it's a double-edged sword for them as well.
Well, maybe that $1 billion back is after those
adjustments. Maybe. I don't know.
But I've
never seen £1 billion. I'm not.
No,
so.
If you did follow this properly, there will be less of that sort of thing.
Yeah,
because it's all laid out.
Yeah.
So I think the only people that genuinely might have a concern are those who perhaps aren't operating.
No, but they should have concerns anyway.
Yes,
because making tax digital isn't, in my opinion, going to particularly catch people playing games with the system. I think the new regime that incorporates many, many different ways of inspecting accounts and checking people, that process is catching people out. If it was making tax digital was a standalone system being introduced, or initiative as they call it, then that wouldn't be enough to catch people out. It's the whole infrastructure. There's a whole. It's very difficult now to even spend cash.
Yeah.
So if you've taken cash and not paid tax on it, then how do you spend it anyway? And it's getting more and more like that. Nothing to do with making tax digital. Making tax digital is just another way of filing accounts, filing information which is already being coordinated, and if it isn't, it should be. Yeah.
Well, I think we've put that one to bed. It's nothing to be afraid of.
Well, if anybody does have any concerns, you can always give my number out or email, and people can contact me, and I'll tell them how it relates to their personal circumstances.
Yeah, we'll be giving full contact information.
Yeah.
But if you go to accountsdirect.biz, the numbers, the contact forms are all on there. So that's accountsdirect.biz. No matter how small or large your business is, Well, if this is a concern to you or anything else...
The idea of this is information. It's not touting for business. So if I was looking for business, obviously, I prefer people that pay us more. But it's not about that. It's about if you're thinking of setting up a business, or you know someone that is, or you're a bit nervous, or a bit worried about it, or you've got any concerns, just send me an email. I will reply to you.
Of course, The whole idea when we discussed this was not a tout for business, but the fact is this is what you do.
Yeah.
And there's only so much we can cover in any given podcast.
No, they can contact me. It doesn't matter who it is. You can be a school kid. You can be at college. You can be at university. You can be retired. If you just want to know a little bit about it, just send me an email.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm nice that way.
You are.
Yeah,
often said.
And if you do want to pay me, McDonald's is fine.
But buy it cash so your wife couldn't see it on the bank account. I understand.
Yeah. Incidentally, if people do get me that, it is a taxable perk, so have to declare it anyway. Maybe not an MTD, but
would you declare it digitally?
I don't know how I'd convert it, but I suppose I should. Yes, it's an income, isn't it? It's a perk.
It's definitely a perk.
Yeah.
Until later.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there it is. Nothing to worry about.
No.
Nothing to worry about. Just embrace it, because everything's going that way anyway. Yeah. And it will help you in the end keep everything a little more organised, a little more together.
It will.
And certainly nothing to panic about. So when you're reading online about people panicking about it, your accountant, if you have one, will probably already have it well in
He won't even think it's that important.
No, and if they don't, get another accountant.
Yeah, well, yes, there is that.
But this is the way it's going. And, between software you use at home to keep yourself up to date with your books and your accountant, you shouldn't even really notice any great changes in the way you do things. Certainly not to the negative. So your business is fine if you go digital, that's for sure.
They're already digital, most people remember.
I know, but this is making tax digital. It's in big letters in front of me. It's very important.
That's only because the guy at HMRC that wrote it's a bit short-sighted.
Yes, and he's got to make a big to-do, because they probably spent $9 billion getting this ready and putting the software out to the lowest.
It's a fundamental change for them, because they're not processing paper forms, and they're getting it quarterly instead of annually.
Well, luckily, not that I'm cynical, at least government departments have a great track record with IT.
Absolutely.
And this should
so
be
it might
seamless.
be next year after before the new software works, but we'll still be expected to file it.
This will be seamless.
Yes,
It'll be seamless.
It will be.
Thank you so much for listening to our very first podcast. Remember, we'll come back with regular episodes And it's all about business. Whether it's a current issue that bothers you, we'll be getting business people in to discuss how they've done things and they've brought their business up. We'll be getting experts in from the fields of accountancy, business development, banking, all of the kind of areas, all aimed at giving you a little more information. And perhaps sometimes, like today, just that little arm around the shoulder to tell you it's going to be okay.
It will be okay.
And that's what this podcast is for.
And I think if people could see the size of these microphones, they'd be even more reassured, wouldn't they?
I'm going to be honest.
Yes.
It's the microphones aren't that big. It's the pop shields on them.
I thought you were going to say it's the way we're using them.
It could be.
Okay.
It could be, but I think it's mostly the pop shield.
That's fine.
All show. All show and no go.
Yeah.
But they are very fine microphones, so there we go. Thank you so much for listening, and please do check us out. We'll give full information of the upcoming Business Edge website and everything else for you very, very soon. Stephen, thanks for coming in. We'll do this again next week.
Thanks for talking to me.
It's always a pleasure, never a chore. Thanks for listening, and bye-bye.